Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this from. This is obviously my Tszyu versus now Sebastian Fundora card, which takes place obviously over on Amazon Prime pay-per-view in terms of the motor. Obviously, Tszyu was obviously meant to face T. Thurman, but T. Thurman had to pull out 1 week before the fight. But we'll get onto that when we get onto the main event. So we predicting 5 fights on this card, and there will be a bit of a rant from me in terms of this on this card in some certain fights, but we'll get straight into it. So starting off then, we've got Julio, Cesar, Martinez up against Angelino, Cordova for the WBC World Flyweight title. Obviously, this fight has been rescheduled about twice now, hasn't it? It's been rescheduled twice. This is the third time it's been rescheduled. So this fight has always been in the line to be made between these two. And Cordova, he's unbeaten. Cordova is an unbeaten man. Cesar Martinez has 2 defeats on his record, with one of them obviously coming up against Roman Gonzalez. And it's a 12-round contest for the WBC World Flyweight title, and tough one to call. It's a tough one to call because I don't think both fighters are that great defensively. And Cesar Martinez, the problem for Cesar Martinez in this fight is all about staying in shape for me, because he is quite tight. He is quite tight at that weight now. He is quite tight that weight. It's all about Martinez's shape for this fight. I think Martinez does win this fight. I do think Martinez does win this fight, but I think it is on those points, in my opinion. I think it will go to points, in my opinion. But I wouldn't rule out Cordova in this fight just because of Martinez having problems with his shape, trying to stay at flyweight, trying to make that flyweight limit, Martinez. So there could be problems there for Martinez. And this fight has always been rescheduled for like the third time now. We just don't know who that favourites, to be honest with you. But I think I am on the edge towards Martinez on points. Better resume. Has a better resume despite the defeat. And I'm going for Martinez to win on points. I think it's going to be close. I think it is going to be close in terms of points decision between these two. But I think Martinez will do it on points, in my opinion. So up next then, we got say Bonachuk up against Mendoza. This is a great fight. By the way. Obviously, but Bonachuk was meant to face Sebastian Fundora, but Sebastian Fundora is now facing Tszyu for the WBO, for Tszyu's WBO belt and Vacant WBC belt, which I don't have a rant about, to be honest with you. So, first things first, I don't have a rant, unfortunately, because Bonachuk was supposed to be fighting for the Vacant WBC belt until Sebastian Fundora, well, it's not Fundora's fault, but Fundora was obviously chosen to fight Tszyu. And the WBC, once again, WBC doing WBC things, it does not make sense from the WBC. Why do you put, all of a sudden now, the Vacant WBC belt is now up for trials for Tszyu? I mean, Tszyu will be rubbing his hands together, thinking, unified champion, I'll take that. With all due respect to Sebastian Fundora. But I don't think it's fair. Because Fundora against Bonachuk was meant to be for the Vacant WBC belt. And now the WBC decide, we'll just... Fundora, by the way, who is below Bonachuk in the rankings as well. Why is Bonachuk not getting a shot at Tszyu then? It makes no sense. And by the way, where's Charles Conwell? Where's Charles Conwell? He's number one. He's number one in the WBC one thing. So if anything, Fundora shouldn't even be on this card, in my opinion, because it should be Charles Conwell against Bonachuk for the WBC, for the first WBC belt, in my opinion. Nothing we can do about Keith Thurman, to be honest with you, about Keith Thurman pulling out. So Tszyu didn't need an opponent. But it's a WBC. Once again, the WBC just made no sense at all. But they've made a great fight here between Bonachuk and Mendoza. Which is going to be a WBC Super-Welterweight now, Eliminator now. But I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair on Bonachuk, because Bonachuk was thinking he's going to fight for a third WBC belt and potentially become a world champion. But now, once again, now he has to fight in the Eliminator against Mendoza. And by the way, this is a great fight. By the way. Mendoza, all Mendoza's defeats have came on points, so he's never been knocked out by Mendoza. Obviously, Mendoza obviously took Tszyu to points, didn't he? To use out the Tszyu on points. Mendoza has knocked out Sebastian Fundora as well in terms of his resume. Bonachuk, probably Bonachuk's first step up, isn't it? Bonachuk's first step up an opponent against Mendoza. And it's going to be a hard one. It is a hard one because I think Mendoza, the only way Mendoza can win this fight for me, he needs to stop Bonachuk, in my opinion. Because I do feel if he does the points, I do feel Bonachuk will have more of the rounds on the start card, in my opinion. Bonachuk, 100% record in terms of his, obviously, on his record. 100%, all of his fights have been won by knockout for Bonachuk. So, but I do think Mendoza is a tough man to knock out and stop for Bonachuk. So this is where Bonachuk will probably be, in my opinion, be took to points for the first time, in my opinion, Bonachuk. And it's trying to predict who will win. But you don't have to look at Mendoza, 3 defeats. His 3 defeats have came on points, haven't they? So I think that's what favours Bonachuk, in my opinion. Even if he does go to points, I feel Bonachuk will get more of the rounds on the start card, in my opinion. But I do think Mendoza is a tough man to stop. And this is the first step up for Bonachuk as well. Up against Mendoza. Mendoza, he can stop people. He can knock out people as well. Because I felt Bonachuk and Fundora, that fight made sense for me. That fight did make sense. But you can also say Mendoza is below Bonachuk in the rankings. I mean, you can't really judge it by the rankings, really, but Bonachuk is obviously the slightly younger fighter than Mendoza. I think it does to points. I do think it does go to points. I think this is the first time Bonachuk will go to points, in my opinion. If he was to knock out Mendoza, it's a massive win. It's a massive statement because no other opponent has stopped Mendoza before or knocked out Mendoza. So Bonachuk is going to be dangerous because of all of his wins came from knockout. But Mendoza hasn't been knocked out. So I think it leads to points, in my opinion. I think it does lead to points. And I'm going to go for Bonachuk. I am going to go for Bonachuk to win it on points. I think he'll get more of the rounds over Mendoza in terms of the start card, in my opinion. So I do think Mendoza needs to stop Bonachuk, in my opinion, to win this fight. For Bonachuk to win this fight, I think he needs to win it on points. I can't see Bonachuk. He's capable. of knocking out Mendoza, but Mendoza's not been knocked out. So I think Bonachuk will get the win on points over Mendoza and become WBC mandatory. Whoever wins that fight between Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora, most likely done beat Tszyu. So up next then, we've got two very inactive fighters, but it's for the WBA World Middleweight title between Erislandy Lara and Michael Zerafa. Two inactive fighters, two fighters who last fought in 2022, people who fought in 2022. So I think it's a tough one to call, actually. I do think it is quite a tough fight to call because they've both been inactive. It's certainly don't all the way to points, in my opinion, because of their inactiveness. And this is what's so annoying about Chris Eubank Jr., for example. Why is Chris Eubank Jr. not going after Erislandy Lara, who's not been active for 2 years? He's not been active for 2 years. This is my frustrations with Chris Eubank Jr. over in England, over in the UK. Why is he not fighting these fighters at world middleweight? I think he can beat all of them on the ball mat. On the ball mat, I think he can beat Lara, not being active for 2 years. He can certainly beat Tszyu, who's not been active since obviously he has came back against Jose Benavidez, but I think Eubank can beat him. And you got Janabek, who people seem to rate. I don't really rate him that much, to be honest with you, Janabek, because I felt he lost to Denzel Bentley. I mean, what does that say? What does that say about Janabek, in my opinion? I mean, Janabek is a good fighter, but I think Eubank has a huge chance against Janabek. I don't think the middleweight division is great at all. Honestly, you look at the champions in the middleweight division, I'm not really convinced by it, to be honest with you. I don't know who's. I think it's wide open. The world middleweight division. Which is why it's my frustration with Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr., for me, he could have easily been a world middleweight champion by now, because Lara has not been active for 2 years. Tszyu has not been active that much. And Janabek, who people seem to rate for some reason, I just don't see it. Janabek has fought no one. On his resume apart from Denzel Bentley. And the yachts, in my opinion. And he lost to Denzel Bentley. So, I know it's a bit off topic with Chris Eubank Jr., but that's what Chris Eubank Jr. should be doing. All three champions in that middleweight division, they're there for the taking. I'm sorry, I think they are there for the taking. But as for this fight, both inactive, both not been active since 2022. I think it leads all the way to points, and I think Lara is the better fighter than Zerafa. But I think Zerafa still got a chance, in my opinion, because Lara's not been active for 2 years. It's a hard one to call, but I'm going for Lara to win on points, in my opinion. In this will be a fight of two inactive fighters, in my opinion. I think that will show in the win as well. So I think Lara will retain his belt on points, in my opinion. Now on to the 12-fighter event, the WBA World Super-Welterweight Championship between Romero and Issac Cruz. This is a very interesting fight. This is a very interesting fight, actually, because Issac Cruz is stepping up to super lightweight, because his latest weight has been obviously at lightweight division. Issac Cruz, obviously when the first had their first face off, Issac Cruz did look out of shape, but Issac Cruz is always in shape on fight night, in my opinion. Issac Cruz, obviously putting them extra pounds on to step up to super lightweight. Issac Cruz is a fucking pit bull, isn't he? Isaac Cruz lives by his nickname, doesn't he? Pitbull. Because he's a pitbull, off the eats, Isaac Cruz. Roy Romero, he's not fought anyone really, has he, on his resume, apart from that defeat to Fulton Davis, where he got stopped in the 6th round. And same with both fighters, where they're both beaten who they expect to beat, and they both lost to a special fight into Fulton Davis. So it is quite a tough fight to call. Isaac Cruz, you're gonna do well. You have to do well to keep Isaac Cruz off you, in my opinion. Which is my worry for Roy Romero in this fight, because we saw what happened when he faced an opponent smaller than him. Fulton Davis knocked him out. And there's two ways for Isaac Cruz to win this fight. He needs to stop Roy Romero. I think Roy Romero will probably rely on a points win, in my opinion, because I don't see Roy Romero stopping Isaac Cruz. Don't see him knocking him out. I think Roy Romero, the game plan of Roy Romero is going to be very interesting. He's going to have to try and keep Isaac Cruz off him as long as possible, while trying to box and move on Isaac Cruz, because Isaac Cruz, he's going to be a pit bull, up on the gates. He's going to be on you. He's going to be all over you. And that's my worry about Roy Romero. As much as Isaac Cruz is stepping up to super lightweight, it will be his first fight at super lightweight. Roy Romero has not done well keeping fighters that land on him off him. So I think Isaac Cruz is favourite in this fight. I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? Because Roy Romero is the natural super lightweight, isn't he? He's a natural super lightweight, so you'd expect him to be favourite. But when you watch fights, I make Isaac Cruz favourite, in my opinion. Because I just don't know how Roy Romero is going to keep the pit bull off him, in my opinion. I think it will go into the championship rounds for me, because I think Isaac Cruz will obviously, he's getting used to being at super lightweight. It'll take him time getting the shape and the win at super lightweight, and then first couple of rounds will probably check each other out, but then in the mid rounds, Isaac Cruz is gonna be absolutely on Roy Romero. It's gonna be absolutely on him. It could well go in the championship rounds as well. You know what, Andor, it's just that super lightweight, isn't it? If this was at lightweight, I think Roy Romero would actually knock Romero out earlier. Isaac Cruz would knock out Roy Romero out earlier, in my opinion. It's just that Isaac Cruz, there's going to be questions asked about Isaac Cruz stepping up to super lightweight. I think he'll definitely be in shape, definitely, because he has got out of shape like months before a fight, and then he gets in shape for fight night and for the weigh-in as well. And I think Isaac Cruz, I just can't see Roy Romero, people. I don't know how Roy Romero can get to the scorecards, in my opinion, without keeping Isaac Cruz off him. I don't think he can keep Isaac Cruz off him, unfortunately. And I think Isaac Cruz will get a stoppage win in the 10th round. I'm going to offer a 10th round stoppage win for the Pitbull, Isaac Cruz, over Roy Romero. And who knows, stepping up to super lightweight will probably benefit Isaac Cruz a lot as well. He add even more power into his punches as well. So I think Isaac Cruz will definitely. I think Isaac Cruz stops Roy Romero in the 10th round and become the UWBA World Super Lightweight Champion. And finally, onto the main event. I will have my one after this, after I've done my prediction for this. Tszyu, who was meant to be facing Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman's now pulled out. But now it's back to a 154 fight for Tszyu, where he'll defend his WBO World Super-Welterweight Championship against Sebastian Fundora. Also, the 13th WBC Super-Welterweight title will be on the line for both fighters in this fight. Sebastian Fundora will obviously be the taller fighter, definitely the taller fighter, but there's levels for me. In terms of comparing the two. Tszyu looks like he could be following in his dad's footsteps. Tszyu. We all know Tszyu, what a fighter he was, and what a fighter Tszyu is, by the way, as well. And the winner will have to face a certain Terence Bud Crawford, of course, as Terence Bud Crawford has been made mandatory for Tszyu's WBO Super Welterweight belt, and probably will be mandatory for the WBC with that nonsense that the WBC came out with. And it's all about the build-up now, isn't it, for Tszyu versus Terence Crawford fight, in my opinion. No disrespect to Sebastian Fundora. He's been knocked out by smaller opponents before, in prime Mendoza. And I just don't know how Fundora's nemesis and weakness is then small opponents as well. And Tszyu is levels above Fundora. Tszyu is an absolute machine, in my opinion. It's an absolute machine. Tszyu was obviously tough to points by a very good fighter in prime Mendoza, who we will see on this card. And that was probably Tszyu's only toughest fight, you have to say, was against prime Mendoza. And for me, Tszyu, I think it's too much. I think Tszyu would be far too much for Fundora, in my opinion. And we saw how Fundora did against prime Mendoza. Prime Mendoza, a smaller opponent than him. I think Tszyu gets it done. I think he gets it done in the first 6 rounds, in my opinion. He's a relentless machine, Tszyu. He's absolute quality, Tszyu. And wow, I'm already getting goosebumps for that fight against Terence Crawford potentially after this. And I think, he will be ordered to fight Terence Crawford. He needs to fight Terence Crawford, apparently. So after this, get your money out, people, for Tszyu against Terence Crawford, because Tszyu is definitely going to be far too much for Fundora. And I'm going to go for a 6th round stoppage win for Tszyu. I think he gets it done in 6 rounds. It wouldn't shock me if it's a 3rd round, honestly. It wouldn't shock me if it's a 3rd round stoppage, even that early for Tszyu. But I think I'm going to be nice to Sebastian Fundora and say Tszyu gets a 6th round stoppage win, in my opinion. But finally, I will say this now. I'm going to have a rant, unfortunately. This is going to be it's going to be about, obviously, Amazon Prime being a pay-per-view in America. For me, looking at them fights, it's a stacked card, don't get me wrong. It is a stacked card. But there's no way that card should be a pay-per-view, in my opinion. I'm sorry, but I don't know where the pay-per-view star is. Where's the pay-per-view star on this card to sell this pay-per-view? Tszyu against Fundora. Tszyu can have light worth on some light worth of Tszyu, let's be real. Romero versus Cruz. Good fight. I have to say it's a good fight. It's quite an intriguing and interesting fight. But I think Isaac Cruz stopped Romero yet, in my opinion. Lara versus Zerafa, 2 inactive fighters, and that's going to be, I think that will show in the win. Bonachuk versus Mendoza, I'll give them that. I think that's a brilliant fight. Bonachuk versus Mendoza. Could go either way in terms of points decision. Martinez and Cordova, a good fight then. It's a good fight, but I think Martinez. But I obviously favour Martinez. So, but am I missing something? I don't know what's so pay-per-view about this. in America. Al Heyman's won. He is running the PBC into the ground, in my opinion. Because I'm baffled. I'm baffled. I'm stuttering because I don't know what's so pay-per-view about this card. I don't know what's pay-per-view about it. If it wasn't on pay-per-view, I wouldn't be wanting. I would say, yeah, it's a dud stacked card. But to have it on pay-per-view is an utter disgrace, in my opinion. It's an utter disgrace. And I think you're silly, in my opinion. I think you'd be silly to pay the money. Obviously, people will pay money to watch it. And it's not the people's fault for paying money. It's the PBC for having it on the pay-per-view. Come on. There's nothing pay-per-view about this card. But yeah, that's my rant over anyways. That's my rant over. But I'm going to leave it there. If you're watching this on playback, feel free to go predictions down below for all five fights down below in the comments. And what I'm feel free to go thoughts down below on this being on pay-per-view in America and the WBC now moving the Vacant WBC belt in the Tszyu main event instead of Bonachuk, instead of the Bonachuk fight. What's your thoughts on that? So feel free to take your thoughts down below and your predictions down below in the comments. Take care, stay safe, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day, everyone. Take care.